Everybody, this is Greg Helbeck. Welcome to this week's REI Weekly Deal Breakdown. And today I'm going to talk about a property that I just wholesaled yesterday on Rapp Road in Monticello, New York. This was a pretty good wholesale deal. This was an interesting one. Good amount of lessons learned here. So if you get value from this or any other video, you could do me a favor and like the video, subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me. And if you are not familiar with me, my name is Greg Helbeck. I've been a full-time real estate investor now for almost a decade. It's going on, 9 years now. Crazy how time flies. So I've done well over 250 properties. I got a relatively decent-sized business here in New York and Washington. And the point of this show or any other piece of content I put out is to share real-world lessons that I've learned the hard way with you, the easy way so you can benefit from it. So today, we're talking about Rapp Road in Monticello. So the way that we found this deal, ironically, was from pay-per-click marketing, which I haven't been a big fan of in 2024 as the time I'm recording this. It's been very expensive to get these PPC deals, very hard to run these campaigns. It's very competitive. Usually the sellers are getting multiple offers. So anyway, this lady reached out to us from our website on a Google ad. And she moved to Tennessee. She had a house in Monticello, which is in Sullivan County. It was vacant, and she pretty much picked up left and went to Tennessee. And she wanted to sell the house as is. There were some building violations on it. She didn't want to deal with that. She was looking for a cash buyer. So she called multiple companies. She called me, a couple of my buddies, and Brett, my acquisitions guy / partner, ended up basically, giving her a good offer that we knew we could wholesale it for. I think it was higher than the other guy who made an offer. And I remember she called in at like 9 in the morning. And I think by 11 o'clock, we had a deal put together and she signed a contract. We got the attorneys involved. And I was like, yeah, this one, I kind of want to wholesale. I don't want to flip it. There's some building violations. I don't want to get involved with that, especially up in, kind of the sticks, middle of nowhere. I put it out to my email list and I had a buyer relatively quickly jump on it right away for, I think, $20,000 over what I've had under contract for. So base hit wholesale deal. So the buyer was kind of a flake and he was just really reluctant to sign the contract. He was busy. He had this other business he was doing. Long story short, he was waiting the whole time for the municipal search to come back, found out there was violations, which I told him, and he ended up bailing on the deal and left me high and dry. And I called him up and told him, listen, man, that's not how I do business. You just burned a bridge. That's not cool. You gave me your word, but it is what it is. My fault too for going with you. I should have not believed your words because clearly they didn't mean much. So I had to go back to the drawing board, send it out again to my email list. I found a friend of mine, Mendel, who has a bunch of buyers that he knows down in Brooklyn. He put it out to them and he basically put, I think, $5,000 above whatever I was trying to sell it for. We ended up finding an actual buyer who was pure cash, who knew about the violations, who didn't care, who just wanted to own a lot of properties in Monticello. Made me an offer. And after Mendel's $5,000, I still made an extra $3,000 on this deal by having Mendel bring this buyer. So at the end of the day, it was a $23,000 assignment fee minus a legal fee of around $2,000. So I ended up walking away with $21,000. So what are some lessons that you can learn there? Number one, if you have a buyer and they seem interested in the property, if they don't sign a contract within a day or two and put a deposit down, they're bullshitting you, right? I buy houses from wholesalers all the time. If I tell a wholesaler I'm going to buy their house, I'm putting a deposit down the same day and I'm signing that contract ASAP. So this buyer was bullshitting me the whole time and I was believing his BS because at the time, he was the only serious guy who was interested. So I was like, all right, I'll just go with this guy. And he literally strung me along for weeks and ultimately screwed me at the altar. So, if the buyer's dragging their feet like that and you're wholesaling a house, find another buyer. Don't get your hopes up. If someone's really serious, they'll put a big deposit down. They'll sign a contract. They're not going to jerk you around. So I should have known that. Lesson number 2 here is I could have pretty much thought this deal was dead after the buyer bailed because originally he was the only one who was really interested. But when I put it out again at the same price, and I was patient, I ultimately got more money. So I should have just done this in the beginning. I should have just waited it out and been more patient off the bat, and I wouldn't have had to get jerked around by this guy. But at least in my market, or if you're in a competitive market, depending on where you are in the country, if you have a property under a certain price in a certain area, no matter the condition, it's going to sell. Like, for example, in the Hudson Valley, if you have a property that's less than $150,000, odds are it's going to sell because it's so expensive around here. Or if you're in San Diego, or if you're in Seattle, or if you're, anywhere where it's expensive, even though this property had some issues with the building department and there was open permits and violations, like you're not going to find a property in Monticello for like under 150 grand. It's just too good of an area. So when you have a deal in a good area, be patient, wait it out, and you're going to get what you want most likely. Like the reason I see a lot of wholesalers not have success is because they get properties under contract way too high initially, and they try to sell them for more than what they're actually worth. And then they can't find a buyer and they think wholesaling doesn't work. But if you actually get a property under contract at the right price and you sell it to the buyers where they can make a little bit of money on the back end, you're not going to have an issue selling your deals, especially in a hot market like the Hudson Valley or Seattle or Florida. These are high desirable areas. So make sure that you are patient with selling your properties. Don't jump right away and get desperate because buyers can sense when a wholesaler is desperate. So that's the second lesson. Third lesson here, I was going to do whatever it took to sell this property and keep my word with the seller, right? The last thing I wanted to do is go back to the seller and say, hey, I have to cancel this contract. This isn't going to work out. Like, that's something that really makes me sick because this deal, usually what happens, just to give you a little side note, if it's a wholesale only property for whatever reason, we'll tell the seller we're going to wholesale it and we'll have a contingency that allows us to wholesale it. But because I did not do that and the seller thought for sure we were buying it, which we ultimately did, I was not going to let this deal die. I was going to make sure this property got sold. Whether I made a profit or not, I was going to make sure I kept my word with the seller. Worst case scenario, what I would have done is said, hey, take over my contract at face value and, we'll call it a day. We'll learn from this and we'll move on to the next one. So keep your word with your sellers, right? Don't screw your sellers over unless you tell them you're wholesaling the house and you might bail and they understand that. Keep your word with your sellers. You only have one reputation and it takes 10 years to build it and it takes one deal to ruin it. So you got to make sure you stand behind what you say you're going to do. That builds a lot of credibility up and it gets people to know, like, and trust you. So hopefully you got value from this breakdown. To summarize this, from a marketing standpoint, it was a $23,000 deal from pay-per-click. But the truth is, I spent a lot more money than $23,000 this year on pay-per-click. So from a marketing perspective, I'm still in the red on pay-per-click. However, since this deal, I've cut that marketing channel off, and now I pretty much just do referrals, direct mail, and cold calling, and it's much more profitable. So hopefully you got value from this. If you did, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe. And if you're in the Hudson Valley or Delaware or San Diego or Reno or anywhere where I buy, which is the places I just mentioned, and you have a deal you want to sell me, I'll buy it. Or if you just want to wholesale it with me, we can JV it. Send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com, or send me a message on Instagram @grego_37, and I'll see you on the next REI deal breakdown. Take care.